The first time I met Daniel, he was everything I had ever dreamed of in a man. Charming, attentive, and incredibly thoughtful. He seemed to know exactly how to make a woman feel special. Our first date was like something out of a movie candlelit dinner. Soft music and deep conversations that made me feel truly seen. He listened to every word I said, remembered the little details, and even surprised me with a book by my favorite author the next time we met. Daniel was the kind of man who made grand gestures effortlessly. On my birthday, he organized a surprise weekend getaway. When I had a stressful week at work, I would come home to find my favorite flowers waiting for me. He celebrated every milestone in our relationship with thoughtful gifts and heartfelt words, always making sure I felt cherished. I had never felt so loved before. Friends and family gushed over how lucky I was, and I believed them. In Daniel, I saw a partner, a soulmate, someone who would stand by my side through everything. When he proposed, it felt like the most natural thing in the world to say yes. But love is a funny thing. It blinds you to the cracks forming beneath the surface. The change wasn't immediate. It was slow, almost imperceptible at first. The little criticisms masked as jokes. The playful jabs at my insecurities that I brushed off because he was just teasing. The way he started comparing me to other women celebrities, colleagues, even strangers on the street. You should try wearing something like that, he'd say casually, pointing at a woman in a fitted dress. Or, I bet you'd look even better if you lost a little more weight. I laughed along, telling myself he meant well, that he was just trying to encourage me to be my best self. After all, he had been so good to me, how could I doubt him now? But the competition had started, even if I hadn't realized it yet. Everything became a game. If I achieved something, he had to achieve more. If I received praise, he had to find a way to shift the attention back to himself. Slowly, my victories stopped feeling like victories because they always came with an unspoken challenge. He made sure I never felt quite good enough. And then came the school reunion. I had been overweight in high school, one of the biggest insecurities I carried with me for years. But after shedding the weight and gaining confidence, I was finally looking forward to facing my past with pride. Daniel, however, had other plans. At the event, he made a beeline for the one person I had dreaded seeing the most, Emma, my high school bully. He charmed her instantly, laughing at her stories, encouraging her to bring up embarrassing memories, and even joking about my past weight. I stood there, frozen, humiliated. My perfect husband, my dream man, was tearing me down in front of the one person who had made my teenage years miserable. That night, something inside me shifted. I had spent too long making excuses for him, too long letting him dictate how I felt about myself. But not anymore. It was time to turn the tables. He thought he was playing a game, but he had no idea I was about to change the rules. The first step in my plan was subtle. I knew Daniel thrived on control, on the idea that he was always ahead of me. So, I let him think that. I continued to smile, laugh at his jokes, act as if nothing had changed. But behind the scenes, I was reclaiming myself bit by bit. I started reconnecting with old friends, the ones he had subtly pushed away over the years. I built a support system, knowing I'd need it when the time came. I focused on my career, taking on new projects and excelling in ways that made it impossible for him to downplay my success. Then, I began to plant seeds of doubt in his mind. I would casually mention things like, I ran into an old friend today. It was great catching up. Or work has been keeping me so busy. I barely have time to think. Little comments that made him wonder if I was slipping out of his grasp. Daniel hated feeling like he wasn't the center of my world. So, I made sure he felt exactly that. The real turning point came when I organized a charity gala through my company. It was a high-profile event, attended by influential people, and I made sure Daniel knew just how important it was to me. He, of course, saw it as an opportunity to outshine me. He spent weeks preparing his speech, ensuring he'd be the most impressive person in the room. What he didn't know was that I had arranged for a special guest to attend, the CEO of a major corporation. Daniel had been desperately trying to impress. Throughout the night, I steered conversations in a way that highlighted Daniel's flaws without him even realizing it. I subtly contradicted his boasts with facts, made him second-guess his own words, and ensured the CEO saw through his facade. By the end of the night, Daniel was flustered, frustrated, and, for the first time, unsure of himself. It was a small victory, but an important one. This was just the beginning. The game had changed, and now I was the one holding the winning cards. Over the next few months, I continued to dismantle his control. I stopped reacting to his little digs, letting his attempts at manipulation fall flat. I started making decisions without consulting him first, proving that I was more than capable of standing on my own. The more independent I became, the more desperate he grew. He tried to lure me back in with sweet words, gifts, and sudden affection, reminders of the man he had once pretended to be. But I saw through it. I had learned his patterns, his tactics, and I wasn't falling for them anymore. Then came the final move. I arranged a gathering with mutual friends and colleagues, a celebration of my latest career achievement. Daniel, of course, saw it as another opportunity to bask in my success while subtly undermining me. But this time, I had prepared something special. During the event, I played a video montage of my journey, my struggles, my achievements, the people who had supported me along the way. I made sure to include every moment Daniel had tried to take credit for, every instance where he had positioned himself as my savior. And then, at the very end, I addressed the crowd. I used to think love was about sacrifice, I said, my voice steady. That compromising who I was meant proving my devotion. But I've learned that true love should never diminish you, it should help you grow. And today, I choose to celebrate the person I've become, despite those who tried to hold me back. The room erupted in applause, but all I cared about was the look on Daniel's face. He was pale, furious, humiliated. For the first time, he was the one feeling small, and I had never felt stronger. As the night ended, I turned to Daniel with a serene smile. "Goodbye, Daniel," I said, walking away without looking back. He had played his game for years, but in the end, it was me who had won.